Hello everyone. I'm very happy to see you all back on my channel. Today's story begins with an incident no one wished for. Yet somehow, it pulls strangers closer together than ever before. Before that, Hai had met an older man a few times. No acquaintance, no name, no past, no clear connection at all. Just two people who accidentally crossed paths in brief moments of life. One time, they sat at the same cafe, simply because there were no seats left. A small place, crowded, every table taken. Hai walked in, looked around, then stopped at the far corner. A table with one empty chair. The older man sat across, only gave a slight nod, like a silent agreement. Hai sat down, said nothing much. Just two strangers, sharing the same space, sharing the same silence. But in that moment, for some reason, Hai felt a faint sense of familiarity. Hard to explain. Another time, he gave the man a ride. A soft sunny afternoon. The road wasn't too crowded. The man stood by the side, as if waiting for something. Hai passed by, slowed down slightly. Their eyes met. No need for many words. Just one simple question. "Do you need a ride, sir?" The man looked at him, hesitated for a second, then nodded. The ride wasn't long. The conversation wasn't much. Just a few polite exchanges. A few simple questions. Not enough to know each other, but enough to leave a faint impression. No deep talks. No curiosity. No connection. No attachment. Just fleeting encounters. Light, without clear traces, yet somehow remained in Hai's mind as a feeling. Hard to explain. Not familiar, but not entirely strange. Not memorable, yet not forgettable either. Hai simply thought it was fate. A light kind of fate that comes and goes, without needing to hold on, without needing to search. Until one day, that fate appeared again. In a way no one expected. One afternoon. Nothing special. Like any other day. The streets were still busy. The noise of traffic unchanged. Life moving in its usual rush. Everything seemed normal. Until a sharp sound suddenly broke through. A collision cut across the space. Not too loud, but enough to draw every gaze in one direction. A man fell to the ground. His body collapsed. Without time to react, a vehicle stopped. People around froze for a moment. The crowd began to stir. Whispers, concerned looks, hesitant steps. Some stopped, watching from afar. Some took out their phones. But no one dared to step closer. The distance between witnessing and taking action sometimes is just one step, yet unbearably heavy. Hai passed by. At first, it was just another scene. He glanced the way people usually do when they see an accident. A quick look. Instinctive. Unconscious. But then, his steps suddenly stopped. Something wouldn't let him walk away. His eyes turned back. Slower. More focused. And this time, He looked carefully. It was him. The man he had met before. Not a mistake. Not just resemblance. It was truly him. That face. That figure. That familiar feeling. It couldn't be wrong. The moment of recognition didn't last long. But it was enough to change everything that followed. No thinking. No hesitation. No calculation. Hai ran toward him immediately, leaving behind the uncertain gazes, leaving behind the hesitation of the crowd. He knelt down, called out loudly, "Sir." No response. The man's body lay still. Not much blood. Just a scrape. A little red. But the frightening part was not that. It was the silence. The fact that he didn't open his eyes. Didn't respond. Didn't react to any sound. Hai touched his shoulder. Gently shook him. "Sir, can you hear me?" Still nothing. Hai's heartbeat started to race. Not from panic. But from a feeling. Hard to describe. Not family. Not someone close. Yet he couldn't leave. Couldn't just stand there. Like the others. Couldn't walk away. As if nothing happened. Something inside him pushed him to act. Faster. More decisively. Hai looked up at the people around. His voice louder. Clearer. Carrying urgency he couldn't hide. "Call an ambulance." Everything happened quickly. No longer scattered moments. No more hesitation. Or distant glances from afar. Everything shifted into a different rhythm. Faster. More urgent. Leaving Hai with no time to think. He followed the ambulance to the hospital. The doors closed. The siren wailed, cutting through the air. Inside, the space felt tight. Not because of size, but because of tension. Hai sat there, his eyes fixed on the man lying on the stretcher. Medical equipment. Quick, precise movements of the staff. Everything happened continuously. Without pause. Hai said nothing. Just watched. As if looking away for even a second would change everything. They arrived. The doors opened. The man was rushed out. Pushed inside immediately. Bright white lights. A long corridor. Rapid footsteps. Everything felt familiar. Yet strangely distant. Hai stood still for a moment. Then followed. No one asked him. No one called his name. Yet he still walked forward. As if it was the only thing he could do. "Where is the family?" The question came. Not loud. But clear. A question anyone in that situation would have to face. Hai froze. Not because he didn't hear. But because there was no answer. He looked down. Then back at the man on the bed. No documents. No wallet. No phone. Nothing to confirm his identity. No contact. No relatives. No connection. Just one person. Lying between two lines. And another. Standing beside him. Yet unable to be called anything. The silence stretched. Not because Hai didn't want to speak. But because he didn't know how. A stranger. Yet the only one there. A man with no obligation. Yet unable to leave. In the end, it was Hai who stepped forward. The pen in his hand. Paused for a second. Before touching the paper. No one said it. But everything was changing. And Hai stood in the middle of it all, unable to return to before, yet not knowing where it would lead. While waiting for verification, time was no longer just numbers, but became a long stretch of silence, where every decision carried its own weight. The hospital couldn't keep him for long. Not because they didn't want to, but because of regulations, limits, things that could not be changed. A person without a clear identity, no family, no contact information, could not stay forever. And as that door slowly closed, Hai faced a choice. No one forced him. No one asked him. It was just a question. He asked himself. Leave the man there, or help him one step further. A step that could make things more complicated, but also might be the only thing he could do. That night, the space felt quieter than usual. Soft lights, familiar sounds. But inside Hai, there was no calm. He talked to Tieu San. No circling around. No hiding. Just telling everything. Every event. Every feeling he went through. Every thought in his mind. Tieu San listened. Without interrupting. Without pressing him. Without giving immediate judgment. She just sat there. The way she always did. When she knew the other person needed to say everything out loud. Her eyes were gentle. Her voice the same. No rush. No pressure. Then when Hai stopped, she softly spoke. If it were you. A simple opening. Gentle. But clear. You already couldn't leave him, right? Hai stayed silent. Not because he didn't have an answer, but because that answer had existed from the beginning. From the moment he turned back. From when he ran toward him. From when he signed the paper. That silence was the answer. Tieu San looked at him. Without needing more. She understood. Then she continued. Without hesitation. Bring him home. A sentence. So simple. Not long. No analysis. No weighing of pros and cons. Just a decision. Made. With trust. And that simplicity changed everything. Not the situation immediately, but how they chose to face it. The next day, everything happened quietly. But clearly, Trung was brought back to Tieu San's home. No noise. No elaborate preparation. Just an acceptance. From people who chose not to turn away. The door opened. A stranger stepped in. No luggage. No memories. No past to carry. Only the present. And the first glances. The atmosphere held a bit of awkwardness at first. Not because of distance, but because of unfamiliarity. A stranger entering a home, yet being treated like family. No one said it, but everyone tried to keep things as natural as possible. Tieu San prepared the meal. As usual. Familiar movements. Gentle gestures. But today, they carried a different meaning. She didn't ask much. Just a few simple questions. How are you feeling? Are you tired? Even though she knew there might not be answers. Because asking was not for information, but for connection. A kind of care that didn't need an immediate response. Hai spoke even less. He didn't ask. Didn't show much. just quietly observed. Every gesture. Every glance. Every small reaction. The way Ong Trung looked around. The way he held a glass of water. The way he reacted to familiar sounds. As if Hai was searching for something. A sign. A reaction. A moment. That could give him an answer. But everything was still unclear. There were moments when Ong Trung looked at Hai for a long time. Not by accident, but with intention. As if trying to remember something. Something very close. Very familiar. Yet just out of reach. That gaze paused. Then wavered. As if searching through emptiness. But then it faded. Memories only flickered. Then disappeared. Not clear enough. Not strong enough to remain. The atmosphere in the house gradually became more stable. The initial awkwardness was replaced by a familiar silence. No need to speak much. Yet understanding that everyone was trying in their own way. One evening, the three of them sat down for dinner. Nothing special, like any other day. But it carried a very different feeling. The room was quiet. No one spoke first. Only the soft sounds of chopsticks and bowls. And within that silence, something unexpected happened. Ong Trung spoke. His voice not loud, but enough to break the stillness. I don't know why. He paused, as if choosing his words. But I feel a slight hesitation. That I've met you before. The sentence. Not a confirmation. Not certainty. Just a feeling. But enough to make everything pause. Hai froze. The chopsticks in his hand stopped midair. His eyes turned toward Ong Trung. A moment. No one spoke. Then softly, he replied, "Yes. I feel the same." No explanation. No addition. Just understanding. Their eyes met. Not long, but deep. A feeling. Very close. Very familiar. As if it had existed somewhere before. Yet could not be named. Could not be defined. Could not be held. Tieu San sat there, watching both of them. Her gaze gentle. Observing quietly. A faint smile passed across her lips. She said nothing. Didn't interrupt. Didn't break the moment. Just silently stayed aside, watching an invisible connection slowly take shape. But inside, a thought appeared. Unclear, yet lingering. Could this, she wondered, be just coincidence? Or something else that had been arranged long before? A question without an answer. But also the beginning of everything that would follow. In the days that followed, everything gradually became more familiar. No longer the initial awkwardness. No longer the hesitant glances. Or uncomfortable silences. Everything, slowly, found its own rhythm. No need to try too hard. No need to force anything. Just days passing by. Small things repeating. And little by little, becoming familiar. Ong Trung began to remember. Not everything. Not a clear stream of memory. But fragments. Scattered. Out of order. With no beginning. And no end. Just images. Flickering. a woman. But when everything becomes clear, when fate turns into blood, when coincidence becomes destiny, will his feelings change or become even deeper? A journey that seemed like simple help is slowly unfolding into something greater. No longer simple, no longer random, but a bond that has always existed, just never seen. And when that bond begins to reveal itself, everything will no longer be the same. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Xin chào mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Nay thì mình tiếp tục mang đến với mọi người video về câu chuyện của Tiểu San và CEO Hải nha mọi người. Cảm ơn mọi người rất nhiều vì đã theo dõi và ủng hộ cho kênh của mình. Hy vọng rằng sẽ gặp lại mọi người trong các video tiếp theo. Cảm ơn mọi người rất nhiều vì đã theo dõi và ủng hộ cho kênh của mình trong thời gian qua. Hôm nay thì ở trên kênh mình đang có một video live rồi. Video live hôm nay thì xoay quanh việc về gia đình chồng cũ của Tiểu San nhiều hơn. Còn video hôm nay thì lại nói nhiều hơn về cái vấn đề về bố ruột của Hải, đó chính là ông Trung. Vậy thì liệu qua cái khủng hoảng và cái diễn biến này thì Hải và ông Trung liệu có thể nhận ra nhau và đoàn tụ với nhau dưới mối quan hệ là bố và con hay không? Và liệu điều gì sẽ xảy ra khi mà mẹ Hải biết được Hải và ông Trung gặp nhau như thế này? Thì mời mọi người đón xem ở trong những tập tiếp theo nhé. Chào mọi người.